Am I justified in being pissed for how my D&D character died last night? I've been playing in a campaign with a group of college friends and my boyfriend, the DM, for about 5 years. We've seen a lot of people come and go and had our fair share of ups and downs, but throughout it all I've always been sure to show up consistently and put a lot of effort into role-playing, planning, and overall just interacting with the world my boyfriend has built for us. He's otherwise an amazing and engaging DM, which made what happened last night more frustrating. Our party had been enlisted to deal with an adult black dragon terrorizing the outskirts of a local village, which we gladly accepted. Upon reaching the swamps and finding the dragon currently patrolling the outskirts, we quickly realized that something was off when the dragon appeared to be uninterested in engaging in combat with us, and didn't seem to recognize the deeds we accused it of doing. After a short-lived combat in which the dragon mostly attempted to ward us off with minions while it flew away from us, we were in fact able to bring it down. Upon which another dragon, a Draco Lich we had previously encountered a multitude of times before, appeared from the growth hissing in anger. Apparently our chronic Draco Lich friend was hoping the black dragon would take us out before it would do the same, in order to claim the dragon's territory, and upon realizing this wasn't the case, cursed us out before flying away and leaving the remaining minions to deal with us, before we took them all out. Now, initially, things went fine and were pretty amusing. Our ranger of all people was able to revivify the black dragon, to the shock and horror of my necromancer PC, and convince it to temporarily aid us in fighting the Draco Lich due to a common enemy. After some persuasion, it agreed and took us back to its lair, where the Draco Lich had begun to make itself comfortable. Dragon Bowl occurred with the two dragons duking it out, while we alternated between throwing our help in, when we could, while also dealing with a number of animated breath elementals the Draco Lich summoned. It was a grueling but fun combat, with a number of us brought unconscious a number of times and close to death. In the end, the Draco Lich was dealt with, leaving us one final warning that he'd be back eventually, as the light faded from his skeletal eyes. Now here is where it gets rough. Another one of our PCs, a Drow Paladin, was determined to deal with the Black Dragon next. Never mind the fact that the majority of us were below half health, or even in the single digits, and I was almost entirely out of spell slots. He insisted that we needed to deal with the dragon before it could fully heal, and threaten the townspeople again. My PC, who's romantically involved with him, and tends to be the one to calm his moods, tried to reason with him by saying we were in no position to fight, and that we could always come back later with reinforcements to the dragon's lair, while the other party members chimed in with their own reasons, in and out of character, as to why we weren't in a state to fight again. The paladin proceeded to ignore all of us and bluntly stated, "I attacked the dragon," sending us into another round of initiative. Within minutes, almost all of us save the paladin, and our ranger, who managed to get into the black dragon's good graces, and was at least kept alive at 1 HP, are down. Still, the paladin, and his player, focus on 1v1ing the dragon, leading to at least 20 minutes of us just sitting there getting to do nothing, as he has his main character moment. Eventually, the black dragon flies away from him and coils around me and another player character, threatening the paladin to give up before he kills us both. You know, his traveling companion and his romantic interest? Without any concern for us, the paladin then responds by aiming a crossbow at him and firing at the dragon's scales, rolling low and missing entirely. Well, with that, the dragon rips my character's head clean off her body. I don't get a chance to have any final words or thoughts. I'm simply beheaded. Something that Revivify cannot help with. My compatriot follows shortly afterwards, though she's only stabbed through the chest rather than having her head ripped off. Eventually, the paladin also goes unconscious, and the dragon flies out of its lair and into the night. With 4 out of 5 of our party unconscious or dead, the ranger gets to work stabilizing the paladin, while also casting Sending to inform one of our core NPCs, a high-level cleric we'd befriended, of the carnage, and asking them to send aid as soon as possible. Eventually, this cleric comes by and is able to revivify my companion. But well, seeing as my head had been torn clean off my shoulders, there's nothing that can be done for me. At this point, I'm livid and genuinely upset. Perhaps I was taking it a bit too seriously, but this is a character I'd played for 5 years, and had gotten incredibly attached to. For her to die due to another character's impulsivity, with no voice or chance to even announce how I'd like to die, was incredibly disheartening. Especially as I had an idea of how such a thing could play out if it did happen, with my necromancy character having a deeply inset fear of death that spurred her into her studies. But I wasn't even granted the ability to roleplay my own death with agency. I was furious at my paladin friend for his selfishness, but also at my boyfriend, who could have stopped this at any time, but decided to keep fueling the fire. I DM'd him separately expressing my upset, and while he consoled me by saying he was sorry that this had to happen and that the party would eventually find a way to fix me, he had to teach the other player character the consequences of rash and impulsive decisions. Which only made me more mad, because why did me and that other player have to die? Because of another character's fuck-up. It only got worse when I requested we end the session early, and I attempted to make my grievances known with the paladin, who left the call shortly afterwards, and according to another friend who was acting as a neutral party, texted to say he felt like he was being targeted for his decisions, and that he wasn't going to apologize for neutralizing a clearly evil threat. Even though the dragon still got away, with nothing to show for his efforts but a near TPK. I left the call to cool down, after stating I wanted to talk about this further with everyone at a later date. My boyfriend has texted me since then apologizing and asking if we could talk privately, while the paladin has said nothing to me but posted in our group chat that he would also like to talk soon, in order to say his piece. I haven't responded to either. I'm extremely bummed and not quite sure where to go from here. I don't want to make a new character after so many years of role-playing my necromancer, but I also don't want to roleplay and solidify the actions of what happened here tonight. I also don't know if I want to leave the campaign just yet, saving that decision for how our next group conversation goes. Any advice or words of support anyone has for me would be much appreciated at the moment. I'm really happy to say our group talk went well. After all of us having time enough to cool down and consider each other's perspectives, we Skyped in and I calmly laid out how the prior session had made me feel, helped by a lot of your comments, which articulated my feelings and arguments in a more concise way than I could have provided at the moment. Both my boyfriend/DM and the paladin were incredibly receptive and listened to my grievances with a lot of understanding, with the paladin even apologizing for his behavior and saying he realized that he got caught up in the moment and failed to consider his fellow party members' feelings, and that he left the call initially because he wanted to cool down and not make the situation worse in the moment. I also owed the paladin an apology for angrily calling him an idiot in the moment, which I provided and he accepted pretty gracefully. While we ultimately decided to retcon and rewind back to the moment where the Dracolich fell would be the best action, in order to avoid any hard feelings, going forward we've all collectively decided to utilize a timeout and talk button if we feel things are starting to go south, or one party member is beginning to cause issues in and out of game. Furthermore, my boyfriend stated that while he wanted to make sure the campaign still had its moments of tenseness and stakes, and there would inevitably be moments similar to this where party members could and would die, he would ensure that no party member was being unfairly punished or targeted, especially for another's actions. Everyone was really mature about the whole affair, and after laying everything out on the table, we agreed to pick up where we left off next Sunday, and parted ways feeling a lot better. While it's not a particularly juicy ending, it is a satisfying one, and I'm glad that my friendship with the paladin or my relationship with my boyfriend wasn't negatively affected by this going forward. I wanted to thank you all for the supportive comments and advice, as I think it made a difference in my phrasing of my frustrations, and kept the onus on solving the problems as a group rather than lashing out. I would disagree with the original poster. I think it is a juicy ending. I would much rather prefer that problems were solved with a proper discussion and maturity. It's hard to talk about our feelings, so it's great to see it work out for everyone and this group of players gets to continue their adventures together, and for the better. Please share your conflict resolution D&D stories in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel All Things D&D. Stay tuned for more amazing Dungeons & Dragons content.